Hi there. Welcome to My Other's Keeper. We're listening to a 6-year-old try not to go to bed. So, anybody who's parents, we get it. Um, Tonight, I have with me Tina, and her husband Scott will be joining us once he has the kids all settled down. But we are going to be talking about their fostering journey, which I cannot believe has taken over like the last 15 years. This summer will be 15 years. I can't believe that. It's just incredible. And the adoptions that have come out of it as well. So their family has been incredibly impacted and really blessed throughout this entire journey. So I just want to say thank you for joining us, Tina. I really appreciate you coming.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Anything to talk about what's going on in the whole fostering and adoption world. Absolutely. Open people's eyes.
Yes, absolutely. And so many people have heard horror stories when it comes to fostering and especially foster kids being abused and foster kids being traumatized and all of this without feeling like they have a forever in anything, right? You hear about times when they show up with just garbage bags and whatever with their clothing and whatever. So, what has been your family's experience? First of all, let's start with the beginning. What was it like when you first started fostering?
Oh Lord. When we first started fostering, it was scary. There's really no other words for it. It was a very scary journey that my husband and I decided to take. Our own bio children were only teenagers when we started this whole process, but they were fully on board, and that's the only reason why we did it. Because if they couldn't be part of it, be excited about it and be part of it, we weren't going to do it because it's not just us being foster parents; it's us being a foster family.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, with foster, once we got into the system, we actually don't use the word foster in our home. That's
Okay.
the other F word.
Oh,
So we don't like using it. These are our bonus kids. We
nice.
we get to, and we always bug our bio kids saying we didn't have a choice with you guys, but we have a choice with these kids. We get to pick them. We didn't get to pick our bios. So
Right, right.
so yeah,
That's
it's
right.
the other F word. So we don't like to use that in our house. These
Okay.
kids come into our home with enough labels that we try and
Absolutely.
at least strip that one from them when
Yeah.
they come in here. But anyways, yeah, it was scary. We didn't know where this journey was going to take us. We didn't know what it was going to do to our family dynamic.
Yeah.
My husband and I actually made a pact when we first started fostering that we were just going to foster. There would be no adoptions, there would be no nothing, because we were just doing this to give these kids a safe place. Well, that changed, and it changed really quick. When you have certain kids come into your home, you just feel that, yeah, this is where you belong. They know they belong here, and well, the rest of it's history.
That's right. Your oldest one is, are you allowed to say names or do you not want to say names?
I can say names of our adopted children. That's fine because they're legally mine. But our
Right?
bonus kids, we actually they go by color.
Oh, okay. Yes.
So
Oh, yeah, I
anybody
remember blue baby, pink baby.
Yes. So
Yep.
that way I can still openly talk about my bonus kids on social media without giving their information. So all of our kids that have ever come and gone through this home have been designated a certain color. And then that way, only people that know us know exactly who we're talking about.
Yeah. Oh, that is so fun. Because yeah, it is difficult to have to hide part of your whole life, right? And that's a major part when you're
Yes.
dealing with children.
Yep.
Like that's huge.
Yep. So
Yeah.
our oldest bonus daughter is 15. She's purple baby right now. With her, we actually should be signing her finals for adoption in the very, very near future. So we're hoping that her adoption will be done in final by the time she turns 16. So fingers crossed.
Yes.
Yeah, and then
How long
our
has she been in your family?
May 1st will be 11 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Wow, yeah.
yeah. So, and then our next one is Trey. He came to us at 5 days old. He is now 13, just turned 13 on the 27th of January. Um,
Mhm.
He has been adopted and legally ours for almost 6 years now. So, and then we have Kaylee, who is just turned 12 actually yesterday. And she came to us at 3 days old. And she has been legally ours for the same amount of time because Trey and Kaylee are full blood brother and sister.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then our next one down from that is our 6-year-old Cassie. She actually, her adoption just finalized as of December 1st. So
Oh,
she is
wow.
just recently ours. She came to us at 3 days old. So she's been here a long time.
Wow. Yeah.
And then we have our 16-month-old little guy. And then we have a 8-month-old little guy. And then we have a 2.5-month-old little guy.
Ooh, wow. Yeah, there's no rest in your house at
No,
all.
no,
Nope.
good thing we're night owls.
Yeah. Well, and I imagine your older children do help with the younger children as well, don't they?
Oh yes, absolutely. The older three are amazing with the younger ones. And I mean our 2 adult bio kids are amazing with the kids as well. Like they know if we need a break, they're going, "Hey, mom, dad, go." Like we're coming over, you're leaving for the weekend, or what,
Nice.
we're coming to babysit so you guys can have some time off. Like our 2 oldest are amazing when it comes to our whole family dynamic as well.
Yeah. Well, for full disclosure here, my children have known her children since her children were, I think my girls were 2 and 3 years old when they first met your kids. So I was friends with her husband, Scott, like when we were kids. We were 12 years old when we first became friends.
Yep.
So, I mean, yeah, I've known him. It's been a minute, you know?
Just a minute.
Yeah. And the funny thing is we worked at the same Bible camp for a lot of years as well. And their oldest daughter, the oldest bio daughter, used to come up to me, you could have been my mommy. And I'm like, honey, you don't know how biology works. We'll talk about that, in another 15 years. So
Yeah, wait till you're a little bit older and you'll understand.
that's right. But she loved thinking of my girls as her sisters,
Yes.
and so right from the get-go, she's 5.5 years older than my older daughter. So right from the get-go, she's like, I used to think of them as just my little play toys to dress up and stuff. I'm like, well, yeah, they kind of were.
Yeah, and you know
So
what? They let her. So
absolutely. They had so much fun. So much fun. Yes. And so I know firsthand how mothering and loving your oldest is. I mean, like that she is just amazing. So yeah.
she definitely got that from her dad.
He's really good at mothering as well, is he?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay. Just throwing that out there.
He is the epitome of a dad. Like there's no other way to explain Scott. He is the dad that I wish I had growing up.
Yeah.
And I'm very, very thankful that not just our biological children, but all of our adopted children and all of our bonus children have him as their dad.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a fun guy. He is really kind of one of those, like there's no nonsense, but at the same time, there's a lot of nonsense that goes on.
There's more nonsense than no nonsense that happens in this house when the Barrett men are involved. So, oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And you've got 3 daughters, 2 sons,
Nope.
and then, no, what do you have?
4 daughters, 5 sons.
Oh, dude. Wow. You're almost a hockey team.
Hey, I have my own. I'm almost at a softball team, so life is good.
Woo! There you go. Talk about the next church picnic. That'd be great.
Well, when we walk into church every Sunday, everybody's like, and the Barretts are here. And we have our own section sitting in our church because they know, okay, the Barretts show up. They need like 3 pews, just them. So
they need space.
They know where we sit, and our section is always open for us.
Nice. Well, then they also know that you need quick access to the nursery. You need like all of these other things. If your church has a cry room or something like that, where you just need to take a fussy baby, like those things are really important as well.
Yeah.
So yeah. Yeah. So what was your initial, Scott almost there?
Still has a baby.
Okay. Yeah, and you can't show the baby. So
No.
no, and that's all right. We understand that. Um, so what has been the biggest surprise, I guess, for you with fostering?
In all honesty, adoption.
Really?
Yeah,
Why was that?
because it was something that we said we would never do. Scott's yelling in the background, cold day and HE double hockey sticks. Like
Yes.
when we first did our training, you have to
Right.
do 2 full weekends, and they kind of give you the information. And after those 2 weekends, it's kind of like, okay, if you're still interested, here's now where you sign up. So one of the our last day of our training, the instructor looked at everybody in the room and was like, just so you guys know, the statistic is that 80% of foster parents eventually will adopt at least one child. Scott turned to me and he looked at me and he goes, no, we will not. And I looked at him, I'm like, furthest thing from my mind.
Yeah.
Like we have our kids. We're just doing this to give children a safe home, a family, all of that. Well, yeah, like I said, certain kids come into your home and you just know that they were placed in our home. God knew that this is where they needed to be. And God knew that these kids that we've adopted needed to be our sons and daughters legally, and that we needed to be their parents forever.
Right. Yeah. And that's something that foster families, like I grew up in a teeny weeny itty bitty little town where there was a very famous foster family, and they had dozens upon probably a couple hundred kids go through their home. It was not the best fostering situation. It really wasn't. When I was young and their kids were young, their bio kids were young, they only had a few at a time, and at that point it was still a good situation. But I think as time went on, um, the foster system, like the provincial foster system, just kept throwing, oh, yeah, these people will take them. These people will take them no matter what. And they had some really medically difficult cases at the same time as high needs cases. And they simply got overwhelmed.
Yeah.
You know, has anything like that even been broached with your family?
No, because I won't let it.
Good.
I
That's excellent.
between Scott and I, we know physically, mentally, emotionally, we know what we can handle. Medically challenged children, I cannot handle physically, mentally, or emotionally. But I know Scott could. But because
Yeah.
I am the one that's home every day, all day, I am now a stay-at-home mom with all of these kids. Scott works out of the home. I have to look at what I can handle here by myself during the day. So we
Right.
knew right from the get-go that medically challenged children was not something that we could do. And I'm not the kind of person to, really to say it, take it up the tailpipe. If they come to us saying, hey, we have this kid, I'll be like, nope, sorry, doesn't fit our family dynamic. It Look elsewhere. So
Yeah.
we know what we can handle and we have no problem saying no.
Excellent. Yeah. Boundaries can be very difficult when it comes to the soft-hearted kind of people that are needed.
Yeah.
You have to be able to have no nonsense, but at the same time, have boundaries, but show all the love,
Yeah.
right?
The hard part is with a lot of foster parents, they're afraid if they say no to a potential placement, that will hinder further placements. And a lot of the time now, that is what foster parents are taught. That
Oh, really?
yeah, you can't say no, because if you say no to this child, why would we call you for this one, or why would we call you for this one, when that's not the way it is. You need to be able to say no. And you just saw my husband's
Scott's
arm.
arm.
But yeah, you need to be able to say no, and that's one of the big things.
Right, right. Well, the thing is, like, you're doing them the favor, not the other way around. Right?
Exactly.
So people
Exactly.
need to realize that when they're in a situation where you are the one doing a benefit to somebody else, you do have the power to say yes or no. Now, if you say no too many times, they're just going to say whatever.
Nope.
But no, they
Nope.
won't.
We've said no a lot over the last 15 years. It's just
Yeah.
we know what our family dynamic is. We know what works for our family, and we know what doesn't work for our family. So
Okay.
we have absolutely no problem saying no when we know it's just not going to work, because that's taking in a child, even if you know it's not going to work with your family dynamic and something happening, and then you have to look at having that child removed. The problem is that is more trauma that is being inflicted on these children that are
Yep.
already riddled with trauma. And
Absolutely.
why add that more extra trauma if we don't have to?
Yep. That's absolutely right. You were saying with your 6-year-old that she was taken from your house for a short period of time, and that was very traumatizing for her. How old
Yep.
was she, and how old was she? That was a few years ago now?
She's 6 years old now, so that she would have been 2.5. Um, the problem is her social workers, like her worker, knew that sending her back to BioMom was not a good idea. It was not going to work. It was going to just not succeed. The reasoning we got was, well, we need to send her home, so when we go to court, we can say we tried.
Good plan.
Well, I guess that's
So
an argument.
so she was picked up from us at 2.5 years old after being here her entire life. Going back to Mama is what she called her, but to her, it was just that was her name. That's what she was called.
Yep.
Lived with her for 3.5 months. And then we got a phone call one day saying the workers were at the daycare. They had the daycare doors locked. They weren't letting her BioMom in. BioMom was flipping out outside and said, "You need to send Scott to this daycare to pick her up immediately. She is coming back into your care."
Oh, wow. I
And
can't
we've been
imagine things
dealing,
that would have gone on to make that necessary.
yeah, and we've been dealing with that trauma of her being taken and the trauma of the whole daycare situation since she was 2.5 years old. And we're still to this day dealing with it, even though she now knows she's legally our child. She has seen her adoption papers. We showed her adoption papers. She knows that she is now home forever. Nobody can take her away. But that trauma is really hard to unpack with a very small child.
Well, yeah, it embeds so far into the psyche because there are no words for it. It can't be expressed, right?
Yeah.
It can't be taken out. It can't be, um, I don't know. It just is one of those things that it becomes part of your DNA,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. And it will be part of who
Yeah.
she is for the rest of her life.
Yeah. Wow. So now I'm wondering how this is going to sound. Are any of your children Caucasian? Are all of your children Caucasian? Does it matter?
In all honesty, to us, it doesn't matter. But
Right?
right now, we have our two adopted, Trey and Kaylee, are Indigenous. Our 15-year-old, who hopefully will be adopted soon, is Indigenous. Cassie she's white, she's Caucasian. Two of our 16-month-old and our 2.5-month-old are Caucasian, and our 8-month-old is actually half Indigenous and half African American.
Ooh, cute.
Oh, he's pretty. If I could show you
I can
his face,
imagine.
oh my gosh, I would.
Yes. Oh, yeah. No, you can private message me later and I'll promise to delete it,
Yeah,
just as soon as I see it.
he's the cutest thing, has been. He was 15 days old when we got him, and he just gets cuter the older he gets.
Oh, yeah.
His list of addictions at birth were a mile long.
Yeah, every one of the kids we have
Really?
in our home came to us addicted to something.
How has that affected things? Because I know FASD, which is fetal alcohol spectrum disorders, or I guess with narcotics or whatever it is, right? That comes with a whole literal DNA change in the child's brain. What has that done? What education, first of all, have you taken to deal with that? And then how has it manifested in your family?
We have taken more courses than we can count. There's FASD specific courses. There's drug addicted baby courses. There's safe baby courses. Like there's so many courses, and the amount of courses and stuff that we have taken in our almost 15 years is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I have a binder probably about this thick of all our certificates in 15 years.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
and FASD, the problem we have found with FAS, because we have one child that is FAS. The problem is FAS kills those pathways in the brain when mom is pregnant, right? The problem is once those pathways in their brain with FAS or with the alcohol is broken, they can never be repaired. Though their brain has to then learn how to maneuver around and basically make new pathways.
Right.
When you get a drug addicted baby, you can repair the damage.
Oh, really?
You can
But
repair,
not with FAS.
no, FAS is
drug.
no, any drug. Any drug, you can repair that with enough time and enough effort and enough repetitiveness. You can actually repair those brain pathways with a drug addicted baby, where FAS you cannot. So in all honesty, if I had to choose an FAS baby over a drug addicted baby, give me my drug addicted babies, because we can fix that. We can work with that. We can love them and just make their brain healthy again. Will it affect them long term? Possibly, possibly not. My 12-year-old, she was born highly addicted to crack, to the point where the first 3.5 months of her life was absolute hell. All she did was scream. You couldn't give her gentle touch. You could not, certain clothing we could not put on her because it made her skin crawl. Very, very, like lots and lots of things with her. But right now, she just turned 12 yesterday. She's in grade 7. She should only be in grade 6. And she is at the top of her class. She
Wow.
is excelling in such a way that her teachers at parent-teacher interviews are like, we can't keep up with her. So when she's done her work for grade 7, we're giving her grade 8 work to do as well. So it can be repaired. It can be
absolutely
fixed. Where FAS, you need to help them work around and make a new pathway, which affects memory, affects like our FAS, the one we have with FAS, we can only give this one task at a time. If you try to say, okay, can you go take out the garbage, clean your room, blah, blah, blah. Well, garbage will get taken out and then they stop and they're like, yeah, I know I was supposed to do something else, but I have no idea what it is. But then they're too scared to come and ask you what it was.
See, now I'm gonna throw another possible monkey wrench into it. That was me growing up, and I know I don't have FAS. For me, though, what I found out only just a few years ago is that I have ADHD that was never diagnosed as a child, and that's a very ADHD thing. Is you've got a list. My mom knew my whole life. If she gave me a list of 3 things, I would be paralyzed, overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And that's something that still to this day, I have to say, okay, how many things do I have?
Yeah, she's actually got the alphabet. Oh yeah, lists. Yep. Yeah. She has the alphabet after her name. It's FAS, ADHD, slight OCD. Like she's got a whole bunch of things that have kind of been mashed into one. But the biggest factor with her is the FAS, because we know certain things we really have to work that much harder with her. Memorization is non-existent.
Yep.
So that 3 guesses. Yeah. But with her, like her short-term memory doesn't exist, but her long-term memory is amazing.
Yeah.
So it's just, we just have to know how to work with them and, what you have to do with their certain diagnosis. A lot of kids that come into care have like A through Z after their name.
Right. And none of it has to do with PhD.
Nope.
That's how I describe mine. I have a lovely alphabet after my name and none of it has anything to do with PhD.
Yeah, we're hoping one day maybe we'll add PhD to after one of their names, but
Well, my oldest is actually, she's had 2 psych degrees because she knew how difficult it was for me to get help. So she took psychology at one university, went to another one and even upgraded further, ended up with some really cool medals and whatever. And now she's taken a year off and she's trying to decide if she wants to do her master's or her doctorate,
Wow.
so it's like, that is so awesome.
That
Our
is
younger
that is
daughter, yeah, our younger daughter, college was not for her, but when she started working at a grocery store, within 6 months to a year, the bosses are like, "We want her for management." So university may not be the place. It
yeah.
could be a grocery store. It could be like Scott was a mechanic forever. How are you still a mechanic, Scott?
Yeah.
Yes,
I
but
don't
no.
I don't work in a dealership anymore. I'll
Oh,
always
okay.
be a
Okay.
mechanic. I got my license. That's gonna follow me around for the rest of my life.
Well, yeah, like me being a hairdresser and being a teacher, it's never going to be not.
Yeah,
So,
well, I mean, as a mechanic, I was instructing mostly apprentices, and usually
mhm,
only one at a time. But the biggest issue with apprentices is they already think they know everything.
yeah,
So I was constantly fixing the mistakes they would make just to get things going and keep customers happy.
So he
yeah.
thinks going and teaching high school students was a better idea.
It's a
So are
lot of
you
stress. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, okay. So you're
You
teaching
know,
in high schools now?
pardon?
You're teaching in high school now?
Yes,
Nice.
I'm an
Good.
assistant automotive instructor at Belrose Composite High School in St. Albert.
Nice. Good job. Yeah, teaching high school kids who don't think they know everything yet, definitely the way to go. So grateful for that.
Well, and it's
Yeah.
full benefits, which helps.
Pardon?
It's got full benefits. I work
Oh.
for the government now.
Well,
Woohoo.
we've been working for the government for 15 years.
Honestly, I mean, the pay is not quite as good as being a full-fledged mechanic. I was making 34 bucks an hour as a mechanic, and it's even higher now.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't make that much. I make about $27 at the school, and we're all due for raises. I just got a letter from my QP guy the other day and saying ask for a raise because it's been 8 years and we need one.
But he's
Yeah.
happier.
I'm happier. I'm way happier because the stress is not
Absolutely.
there. I'm working with kids every day. I still
Yeah.
get to turn wrenches. I still get to fix cars, but I'm doing a different aspect now. It's like I'm partner in my own shop, so I get to do the aspect of some of the business accounts. I hook all that up, and even though the head of the department is a licensed teacher and I'm not, I have been given special permission due to the fact that I'm a Red Seal mechanic to take over if he's sick.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, you have an education that the education university educated teacher won't have.
Yeah.
So you really complement each other nicely. And it's like the two of you, like Scott and Tina, you both in your parenting styles, like Tina was saying earlier, you are the fun dad, and she is the no nonsense, no BS, or I will put my foot up your hiney kind of mom. So she didn't say that, but I know that about her.
You've hit the nail on the head with that one.
Yeah, I know.
Scares me
Did I
something.
mention I've known them for a while? Yeah. Yeah. No, and so with FAS, what sorts of difficulties are unique to a child with FAS?
I don't know because really, in all honesty, every child is going to be affected with FAS differently. So every kid that comes through our home that has FAS or that was here that had FAS, they're very different. Every kid is very, very different and FAS affects them very, very differently.
Yeah.
So we have to really wait. The biggest thing is when we have new kid come into our home and we know their FAS, we have to learn that child. We have to get to know that child because that's the only way we're going to know how that FAS diagnosis has affected them because it affects everybody in a very, very different way.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and you're right. That's a great way to parent too. You don't have two children ever the same. My girls are only 14 months apart in age, and so they essentially grew up just kind of, stair-stepping lockstep. They are such different human beings. You cannot discipline them the same. You can't praise them the same. You can't do any of that kind of stuff the same way.
Yep.
I made a lot of mistakes not knowing that for the first while, and as they got older, I learned it, and fortunately you've had enough children now that you've learned it probably a little quicker because you've had to, so how many children have you had what's the most number of children you've had in your house as children, bonus children, all of that?
There's been times where we're between our bio children, adopted children, bonus children, and then we also do respite care for other foster parents and bring children in. At one point in time, we had 13 children in our home.
Woo! You have enough beds for that?
We don't do
Wow.
that.
Yeah. So yeah, that's 13 is the most we've ever had. But us as licensed foster parents, we can only have 4 bonus kids.
Oh,
So,
okay, yeah.
and then once an adoption goes through, that child is now not counted as a number as one of our beds. So as soon as an adoption goes through, boom, we have another open bed, and the agency that we're through has absolutely no problems filling that bed almost immediately.
So you say it's an agency you go through. It's not the provincial foster care system? No?
Well, it's still provincial. Like every foster home is provincial, but we work under an agency, not directly under the government. So we have an entire agency that backs us and that will stand up for us instead of having to go head to head with the government. Our agency goes head to head with the government.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, that is nice. I wonder if Saskatchewan has a similar program.
Probably most of the foster system, you kind of have the choice coming in as a foster parent to either go agency or government. I mean, there's pros and cons to both.
Yeah.
One of the pros of being a government home is there's not the same amount of paperwork as an agency home has to do. I mean, us as an agency home, I have to do month-end paperwork. I have month-end reports I have to do on every single one of my bonus kids. I have to submit receipts. I usually spend at the end of every month between 2 to 4 hours just on paperwork. Whereas
I have no idea how glad I am there are people like you who can do that, because I can't.
Yeah, it
That
took
is so
a lot.
not me.
It took a lot because I'm not a paperwork person. I hate paperwork, but it's something that I have to do for these kids. Where a government home, they don't have to do month-end reports. But the downfall to not doing a month-end report is there's nothing, they call it it's CYA. There's nothing to cover your ass.
Yeah.
If something happens in your home that brings on an investigation, they can't go back and read all of your monthly reports to see, oh, hey, these kind of problems with this child started way over here or way over here. It's basically in a government home, it becomes your word against theirs. And I'll tell you right now, most of the time, the foster parent does not win.
Oh, man. Wow.
Documentation. They said it, no CT train.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Your documents.
And that thing is too, is becoming a foster parent. One of the greatest blessings in our lives. It's one of the best jobs I've ever done in my life, but at the same time, it's been the hardest job I have ever done in my life.
Oh, for sure.
Having these kids come and go, it's hard on the heart.
Yeah.
It's very, very hard on the heart. Every kid that has ever left our home, whether for good reasons or not, has left with a piece of our hearts.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So what has been, I know that you said Trey from day 3, is that right?
Day 5.
Day 5. Okay. And so these babies are itty bitty infants. Is that what you normally get, is the baby, or do you frequently get toddlers and higher?
We've had all ages. When we started the process, we started it as we only wanted babies. And then we kind of, as we got older, we thought, okay, you know what, let's take in some toddlers. We've even had a few teenagers come through our home. We have parented all ages. We've had the ups and downs of all ages.
For sure.
And now, being older, people say we're crazy, but we've gone back to babies.
They don't talk.
Wow.
And with babies right now, I know here in Alberta, there is a huge shortage of foster homes.
Really?
There's a huge, huge shortage of beds. There are more kids coming into care than there are beds to put them in homes. Um,
Wow.
there are group homes in the Alberta, not just Edmonton, but all of Alberta that have been opened specifically for the ages of 0 to 1.
Oh my goodness. And why would that be? Like, what seems to be the driving force there?
Don't know. And it's like the foster system seems to kind of go through waves where
Mm,
it'll be like this time there's baby after baby after baby coming into care. And then later on, it'll be you see nothing but toddlers, then you'll see nothing but teenagers, then toddlers, then babies. So it goes through its waves of what ages are coming into care or when they're coming into care. But we've just made the decision between the two of us that, you know what, we've done it. We've parented all ages, and we prefer to take them as babies and hopefully give them that good, happy, healthy start that
yeah.
can take them further, or they can take that into the world with them when they either leave here or they go home or into kinship or whatever. We want to be those people that give them that healthy start.
Into kinship, does that mean like adoption?
Kinship
What is that?
is like family or like good friends of the biological parents.
Oh, okay. Okay. So, yeah. And when you've had children go back to biological families, I know that there have been instances when that has been probably one of the worst things that can happen. Have there been times though when it has worked out well for the child to go back to bio mom or bio dad?
In 15 years, we've had quite a few children that have gone back to bio parents, and in 15 years, we've only had 2 that have been positive.
Oh my word. Wow.
Most of the time, these kids they get sent back to bio parents, and of course, we fill our bed, so we don't have an open bed, and then or actually, we don't even find out. We find out through the grapevine that those kids that we parented for however long are now back in care, and they got put with somebody else because we didn't have an open bed, or they just didn't call us.
That has to be just mind bending.
It's
Wow.
devastating, is what it is. It's absolutely
Oh
devastating.
yeah, absolutely. Man, oh man. I cannot imagine. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons why I couldn't do what you guys are doing. I don't know if I have the heart to let go, right? Just
I didn't think I did either. Um,
yeah,
it is hard. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna sugarcoat anything. It's one of the absolute hardest things that we as parents have ever had to do is let a child go after keeping them and loving them and having them and making them part of our family and treating them like our children. It's the hardest thing to let them go. It's like somebody comes and takes one of my own kids.
mhm,
But
for sure.
we have to always remember this is what we signed up for. This is part of our job.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to remember to a degree it's a job. It's not just loving on the kids. I mean,
Yeah,
there is there is an element of jobness to it,
yeah,
like the writing the reports and that kind of stuff.
yeah.
That makes sense.
I gave up my career to become a full-time mom again.
Yeah. Yeah. What was your career prior?
Accounting.
Hmm. Did I mention I'm so glad there's people like you in the world? Yeah, talk about the last thing I want to do. Paperwork, especially to do with money. I don't care if it's not my money. No, thank you. Nope.
Yeah, but
It's
I gave
triggering.
it up because I felt that this is where God wanted us to be. This
Yeah.
is what God wanted us to be doing. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's a whole nother ball of wax, isn't it? You just feel this calling. So when you say God wanted you to do this, how do you discern that?
it, in all honesty, this is something that Scott and I have talked about for probably 30 years.
Hmm.
Um, I had two of my brothers and one of my sister actually go through the foster system.
Mm.
I watched my one sister get into an amazing, amazing foster home. She was with them from the time she went into the care until the time she aged out. She still calls them mom and dad.
Well, they are.
So, and so seeing that, I was like, okay, this is good. But then watching my brothers, they were boys for one. They were a little bit older. Nobody wanted them. And my youngest brother is actually terminally ill. So on top of being
no.
terminally ill and trying to find a home for him, it wasn't going to happen. So I watched my two brothers bounce from group home to group home to group home to group home. Scott and I actually, well, I can turn, he's back. Scott and I at one point actually fought my mom for custody of my brothers, which didn't work. So seeing all of that, it's something that I've had on my heart for a very, very long time. I just could never convince him. And finally, just one day, was actually friends of ours at church, our foster parents as well. And they talked to us one Sunday after church and said, you guys need to do this. This is what you two need to be doing. It took a while to get Scott on board. But this is just something I always felt that this is what I needed to be doing.
Right. Well, especially having seen so closely what happens in positive versus negative situations.
Yeah.
And Scott,
we wanted to become that positive home. We wanted to become that foster home that my sister had. And that is what I wanted to do. And it was just something, it didn't matter what I thought or what I did. I could not shake that feeling that this is what I needed to be doing. It was just getting him on board.
Yeah. And he can be a little stubborn on occasion, so I recall. I mentioned, Scott, that you and I have known each other since we were 12. So
yeah, we've been friends for a long time.
It's been a minute. Yep. So yeah, it's is that a dog or a child?
We got upset puppies because they're behind a gate right now.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, puppies. I have upset teddy bears.
Yeah. I'll trade you the teddy bear for 3 dogs because the 3 dogs don't like being behind a gate.
Well, no, normally I'm not in this room, but because our older daughter is home, she is in what we normally call the studio. So yeah, I'm not normally in front of bears, but it's okay. It worked. But anyways, so I was going to ask you another question and I don't recall what it was. How old are your family members who did go through foster care? Are they all adults now?
Yes.
Okay. How have their lives turned out?
Crappy.
Good to know.
My sister, her life went down the toilet because when she left her foster home, like her life was amazing while she was with her foster parents. When she left their home because she aged out, so she could not stay with them anymore, she just made bad decisions. So her life going downhill is her doing. My brothers, on the other hand, I honestly, truly believe it is because they had no stability growing up. They bounced from group home to group home. They would go home, then they'd go back into care. They'd come stay with us, then they'd go back to the group home. They never had that stability. So their lives are not a life that I would ever wish upon anybody. Let's just put it that way.
Fair. Okay. And your younger brother who was terminal, he has passed then?
Nope.
No? Oh, okay.
Nope. He's still kicking. Not very well, but he is still kicking.
Okay.
He is. He's setting records right now for, I think he is the oldest surviving cystic fibrosis patient in Canada.
Yep. I was just talking to my younger daughter the other day about what cystic fibrosis is. And we both thought it was just a lung thing, and it's not. Anyway, we can talk about that a different day. But
that'll be a whole other hour on its own.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So what was the reason that your siblings and were you in foster care as well then?
Nope. The only reason I had a very screwed up childhood. I did not come from a good home. I did not come from a good background. I did not come from a good family. Basically, once my mom put my sister and my two brothers into foster care or into the system, she basically told me the only reason why I was not in care is when I was too old, nobody would want me, and she still needed me to babysit my other sister and cook and clean for her.
Oh my word. Thanks, mommy. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a
Yeah.
narcissist.
So yeah, that's a whole other story too. But
Again, yeah. Wow.
Yes.
Yeah, we can talk about that on a different day too.
yeah, oh yeah.
There's lots of openings in my calendar. Let me tell you.
I put
So-
the dis in dysfunctional. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. That is substantial. How many siblings do you have that you know growing up?
3 years ago, I only had
Yeah,
4.
we won't touch the new ones. So we'll talk
Yes.
about that another day too.
Yeah, so as of 3 years ago, I only had 4.
Okay. Okay. So people are going to ask, what happened 3 years ago? So what happened 3 years ago?
3 years ago, I found out that my dad, growing up, who I thought was my dad, was not my dad, and I found out he adopted me, and I had a biological dad out there. So I went and found him and gained a dad, a whole other family, and 3 more siblings.
And she's still the oldest.
Yeah, and I'm still the oldest. Holy crap.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I found out well, now I also came from a very dysfunctional home growing up. We're going to talk about that actually. When are we talking about that? Next Thursday. See, this is my calendar. I have to keep track of things. But next Thursday, talking with my sister Glennis about our growing up and the trauma that was.
Mhm.
Knowing that my dad was who he was for so many years, we knew, like, dad always said that there was another sibling out there, but we were always told that it would be somebody 9 months younger than me, not somebody 4 months older than me. So we found a sister, and eventually I'm sure she'll be somewhere on the channel and we'll talk all about that. But yeah, that's a whole nother story for another day, being able to talk about finding family. Now, when you've had all of these children, how many children have you had in your care over the years?
42.
Okay,
You
that's
spent-
not unreasonable.
Yeah, 42.
When did you count?
But I think a lot of it is because we do have a lot of long-term kids. And we
Yes.
prefer to have long-term kids over short-term placements.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah, when you do respite for somebody, like that's different. That's a whole nother situation where you're giving a break for another family who simply
Yeah.
needs it. Yeah. Yeah, and your oldest children have been able to give you guys that. Have you had to go to other foster families and ask them? No? Just
Nope.
your oldest children kick in, and yeah, those guys are pretty good kids, I gotta say. Yeah.
They are. And they're really good at reading us and
Yes.
knowing when we need a break. Like actually in March, Scott and I are going away for our every 2-year mommy daddy week-long trip, just the two of us.
Nice.
And Tori, our oldest daughter, is coming home to stay with the kids. So
Nice.
she takes time off work. But she gets paid for it, which is good. I
Yeah.
don't think she would do it if there wasn't pay. But she gets
Fair.
paid. She comes and spends a week with all her siblings and has fun, and we get our once every 2-year recharge. It's kind of
Yeah.
that's our time to go away for a week. We're in a totally different country, so nobody can call us and say we need you home because we can't just come home.
That's
And
right.
we go away, we recharge, we reconnect, and that's something we try and do once every 2 years, just the two of us.
And that's important as well. As parents of bonus children, foster children, adopted children, natural children, whoever, as parents, you need to keep you guys tight. You
Yep.
need to keep you guys solid. And yeah, I've known y'all for, well, ages.
Forever.
Yeah. Since before you two were you two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've been us two for a very long time.
Very, very long time. But yeah, it just is, you're one of those very solid couples. And I think more people need to work on being solid couples rather than simply trying to be the best parent. Something that I had heard many, many years ago is the best thing a father can do for his children is to love their mother, you know,
Absolutely.
and that's something that I think needs to be said more frequently.
Absolutely. And you know, fathers, show your children that you love their mother, and mothers, show your children that you love their father.
And respect them. That's
Yep.
the other thing. Like in the Bible, it says, husbands, love your wives, and wives, respect your husbands. And too many times out there in this modern whatever day and age, like I am nobody's doormat. And neither are you. But at the same time, in my house at least, there is a place for, he has to be the one to have the final say because somebody has to. And
Yep.
if it's always up in the air, there's no stability, right?
Yep.
And it's not like he doesn't listen to me and whatever, and a lot of times he really, really relies on my opinions, my thoughts, all of that stuff. And I imagine it's similar with you two as well.
Oh yeah, Scott's the head of the house. There's no ands, ifs, or buts about it. But there are times that I need to step up and be the head if he's not here, or
Yeah.
I don't agree with what he's doing, because we keep each other accountable. And
Yes.
that's one of the biggest things is he reins me in, I rein him in. And that is where I think our biggest compliment with each other is we
Yep.
have no problems keeping each other accountable. And I have no problem looking at him going, Scott, you're full of it. Your eyes should be brown. And
Yes.
he has no problem saying the same thing to me. So it
Yeah.
works. And it's worked for 33 years.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's just amazing. And when your kids come into your home, whether they're bonus kids, adopted kids, bio kids, whatever, they see that. They see the stability that
Yeah.
you two have and the respect that you have for each other and the very obvious love that you have for each other. And it's less scary,
Yeah.
I
And
think,
we're
for
not
kids.
afraid to be goofy with each other
Yeah.
too. And that's one thing that we have found, especially with these bonus kids coming in, because they've never had that. They don't know what it is to see goofy parents and parents that can goof around with each other, and whatever, it's no big deal, we're having fun. So we show them that we love each other, we show them that we respect each other, we show them that I back him, he backs me, where we
Yep.
come in as a solid front. But at
Yep.
the same time, we're not afraid to poke fun at each other. We're not afraid to get all PDA in front of the kids and make them all
I
go.
know my kids hate that.
I think that's the best part is when you
Yeah, I know.
when you watch all your children gag because dad gave mom a kiss.
Well,
But
yeah,
we're
it's
not,
like we would
we're
we
not
would be
afraid
kissing
to
in the
show them.
kitchen or something. We'd be kissing in the kitchen or something, and the girls would go, "Mom, what are you doing?" I'm like, "Kissing your dad." Why? Well, would you rather us fight in front of you instead? No.
Exactly. And that's what we show them. We show them that, what? It is okay to be like, to do this. It's okay for this. It's okay for that. And hey, guess what? I'm going to now go kiss your dad because I know it grosses you right the heck out.
I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
Generally, yeah. Doug is too.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's just showing the kids. And I think that the biggest thing is showing the kids that it is okay to show every single emotion.
Yeah.
Because these kids, a lot of the time, if you take in older kids or toddlers, these kids come in, they don't know how to regulate their emotions. Half the time, they don't even know what their emotions are because they've never been
Right.
taught that. So
Yeah.
to show the kids, hey, we can be angry, we can be happy, we can be sad, we can be goofy, we can be, like showing them, here are your emotions. And you know what? It is okay to show all of them.
Yeah. Yeah. With our children, the home I grew up in, it was not safe to have negative emotions. In fact, it was a sin
Yeah.
because they're negative and it's bad. Right.
Yeah.
So when I was first getting therapy with one of my first therapists, he's like, "Do you know how stupid it is that you're mad at yourself for being mad?" I'm like, "What do you mean it's stupid?" He's like, "Well, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Even God had wrath or has wrath, right? So you just have to be careful." You just have to not sin in your wrath. So what I taught my children, and you've probably done something similar, is as long as you're not hurting a person, hurting property, doing anything like that, be as angry as you want.
Yep.
Within our house, because it is so triggering for me, I'm like, okay, yep, yell, scream, throw something, stab something, whatever, in your bedroom. Don't break anything, don't tear anything, and don't hurt a person.
Yep.
Those are the rules. And that is your 100% safe space. You're allowed to freak out as much as you want right there.
Yep.
You know, and that's what we did.
Yeah, and
And
we
that
always,
made all the difference.
oh yeah, and one of the big, I think, the other thing is with us being foster parents as well, is a lot of these kids come from domestic violence as one
For
of
sure.
the biggest things. So Scott and I try very, very hard. Don't succeed all the time because we are human, but
Yeah.
we try very, very, very hard to not have him and I fight in front of the kids. If we have a disagreement, this is why, we say being smokers helps, because if we have a disagreement, we're like, hey, we're going outside for a cigarette. We go outside, close the door, and we'll have our disagreement outside. Or, okay, mommy is fuming and you can probably see steam coming out my ears. So I'm going outside for a mommy 5-minute timeout.
Yeah.
And, but I think that's one of our big things too, is we don't like to argue or fight in front of the kids, because a lot of these kids, that can be a trigger for them.
Absolutely.
The last thing we need to do is constantly be triggering that trigger for them.
Absolutely.
And even as little as babies, if they came from domestic violence, they came from that, even though they're babies, that's still a trigger.
There.
And it still triggers them. It still affects their emotions. And so we tried very, very hard. Don't always succeed, but we do try.
Yeah, well, yeah. You'd have to be superhuman to not, right? We had
But
a young lady. Sorry?
We've learned how to give each other looks. So he knows when I look at him a certain way, he'll be like, oh crap, Tina's mad. We're going to be talking later. Or he'll be like, okay, that look means she's mad at this kid, or we need to talk about this kid. And so we have our looks, and we kind of have our own mom dad language.
That's awesome.
Just with looks, because we have to. We can't spell in front of all of our kids, because 90% of the children in the home can spell.
That's right. They grew up.
Neither one of us speak another language, so that can't do it that way. So we had to come up with our own way of communicating, and it was with certain looks. He'll know if I raise this eyebrow, or my eye twitches this way, or I have my mouth a certain way. He knows what's coming. Exactly.
The look I get most often is, it's time to stop talking. I get that a lot, especially when we're in a team meeting with workers, and I have this unending need to share honestly about how I feel with the way things are going.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's generally not always the best thing to do with social workers, especially the newer generation, because they get offended too easy, and they don't know how to deal with offensiveness because never taught them to grow a thick skin.
Yeah. No, we're Gen X. It's definitely we're a little thicker, and I'm a little thicker than most. So
we have thick skin. They do not. And when you get these social workers that come in and they figure, because they have gone to school and they have this piece of paper that says this, that have never parented a child in their life, can come in and teach us, who have been parenting for over 30 years, tell us how to parent a kid.
Yeah.
That don't go over well with me. I have actually thrown social workers out of my house because they try and tell me how to parent a child, and they've never done it a day in their life.
Yeah. Yeah. I have taken parenting classes over the years, and that has really helped me. You said you've got all of this whole binder full of certificates and classes that you've taken and something like that. Before having taken classes, what was your parenting style like with your bio kids?
We've always had physical and nonverbal cues. And even when they did our home assessment for the first time, before we started doing all our OCT, or we did our OCT training, but we hadn't been licensed as foster parents yet.
Mm-hmm.
So we hadn't started our actual official training. And I can't remember her name, but she spent the whole weekend with us. She was here for pretty much the whole weekend. I told her, if you have recommendations, you let me know, and I'll try and have it fixed or done before you leave. And I did that. But what amazed her was the nonverbal communication that we had between Hot Rod and Tori and ourselves. We didn't have to say anything. We could. It was weird how it works out. It's just we've communicated that way right from the word go. Tina and I have always had a system. It's an unspoken system, but that's how we complement each other. We've just come up with a nonverbal communication method that we both figured out how to understand.
And our kids, unfortunately, picked up on it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But with Tori and Rod, I think the biggest difference with them, with our parenting style, is we know they have not been affected prenatally.
Right.
So
Yes.
we know we can sit down and we can reason with them. We can talk to them. We can have a conversation with them, and we know it sticks. It computes. They understand what we're saying. We've kind of always, with our bio kids, like our oldest children, we've always had the form of, okay, we need to talk. And they always knew when mom and dad said, we need to talk, or it's time for a family meeting. They knew, uh-oh. And I mean, even now, like our adopted kids and even our bonus kids, they know they hear family meeting. They're like, oh God, who's going to die? So it's just always been our thing. We talk first.
Yes.
We always try to talk through it. Sometimes, our bio kids, because they know how to push those buttons that other people and other children don't know how to push. Sometimes our talking was on a little bit of a louder octave, but there was always open communication. And our bio kids know they could talk to us about anything, and it didn't matter what it was. We would never hold anything against them.
Right. Yeah. And that's something with my girls. I've tried to keep that open and honest. I found out recently that, well, not terribly recently, found out a while ago that because of my own mental illnesses, my daughters grew up keeping a lot of stuff from me because they knew it would be a trigger, because of the way I was raised. Right. And then I've got that lovely alphabet after my name. Aren't you glad you dodged that bullet, Scott?
And did you hear?
No.
She said, aren't you glad you dodged that bullet, Scott?
No. I was getting behind a gun no matter who I was dating. So
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? My
kids, a magnet.
Yeah, our kids were exactly the same way. They knew if certain things they didn't want to bring up, they didn't want to say, because they knew same thing. It was a trigger for me because of the way my upbringing and what I went through in life. But I think the biggest thing is we sat our kids down and we told them, I don't care if it triggers me, because that's something that I have dealt with, and I know how to deal with it when I have been triggered. But you are growing up. You need to talk. You need to express what you're going through, what you're feeling, what you're whatever. So I would rather me be triggered and then deal with that than you not come to your dad and I and talk to us and let us know what is going on in your life and possibly have us help you. And I said, not only that, I said, doesn't matter what you guys go through. I can guarantee I've been there, done that, got the t-shirt hanging up in my closet. So I can totally 100% empathize with what you're going through, because I've been there. I've done it. I've gone through it. And I said, and who better to talk to? Who better to talk to than somebody that has been in your shoes?
Yes, exactly. Yep, that's exactly right.
Everything that I've gone through in my life, with the dysfunctional family, I lost who I thought was my dad at a very young age. I was sexually abused when I was younger. I was like, you name it, I've been there. And like I said, I've got the t-shirt.
You try not to wear it though. And that's the big thing.
But that's not true. You know what? I will put those t-shirts on, and I will put those t-shirts on when I have a child going through the same thing. Because I show those children that, hey, I've been there. I've done it. I don't know how you're feeling, but I know how I felt. So
Yes.
I can
Yeah,
sit down and I can empathize with those children. So for
exactly.
the
Yeah.
longest time, I was very angry with everything that I went through in my life. But once we started fostering and we got into this whole system, now I'm actually thankful. I'm actually
Isn't that a
very,
weird feeling?
I'm very, very thankful for everything that I went through in my childhood because
Yeah.
now I have, and I am better equipped
Yeah.
to raise these children that are being brought into my home.
Exactly. And I have said that for quite a number of years, even growing up. My mom always used to say, it's not why me, it's why not me. Like, why should somebody else have to go through this if you could do it for them, right?
Yep.
And then, what is this teaching me? It sucks. It sucks big time. But what am I going to learn?
Yep.
And it's going to hurt, and you're going to have to work through it. But eventually you will. And you'll end up being able to talk to people with empathy, with understanding, with compassion.
Yep.
And that's what this whole channel is all about, is being able to talk to people with empathy, compassion, love in your heart, even though, um, let's see, hang on just a second. We may not always agree, but we can always learn to understand,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
and that's something that these are big things. Um, we don't currently have anybody in our live watching, but we're here to love and learn. So be respectful when you ask questions or make a comment.
Yep.
you know
Absolutely.
so yeah, and i've really um I've really kind of tried to live my whole life, is being able to disagree, but work toward understanding. You don't have to agree with everybody. You
Yep.
don't have to argue until you agree, because if you do, you're not human.
Yeah. And the big thing is too, is you have to be understanding because you don't know what a person is going through because a person is
Absolutely.
not always going to verbally tell you what's going on in their lives.
Yeah.
Like you could be, like picking on somebody. This is why I always tell all of my children, I don't care who you are. I don't care what you have gone through. Don't ever bully because
Yeah.
you don't know what that person is going through at that exact time. You could bully somebody about what they're wearing and not realize that these kids have never had new clothes or whatever, like or especially like our adopted kids, our older kids, we've told them don't bully kids because you don't know if that kid is still a foster kid or if that kid is in a good home. I said, but
Yeah,
you just don't know what somebody is going through at the time. So
that's
until
right.
you have walked a mile in somebody else's shoes, keep
Yeah.
your mouth shut.
Yeah. Now I'm going to go into a slightly different direction. Off to the left. No, not telling you to move your camera.
No.
I'm going to go a slightly different direction, because there are going to be people who are going to push back on this. You have a number of children who have First Nations heritage. What do you do to honor, teach, give pride in, whatever, for First Nations heritage?
Oh boy, we have done lots. We
Oh,
have
good.
learned.
Okay.
We have actually learned a lot going through different things with our Indigenous children. We take our children to their bands to visit, to take part in Christmas parties, powwows. Our kids have done powwow dance lessons. Our 15-year-old actually has full head to toe regalia. She
Ooh.
has all of it. We have done drum making with our kids. We have done research with our kids about their bands and where they are from. We have a 16-foot teepee in our backyard that we had put up by 2 elders from our agency.
Nice.
We listen to Cree-based music. Oh my gosh, the list goes on and on and on. And because for us, it's not just our children learning about their heritage and learning where they come from. I'm learning my children's heritage and I'm learning where my children come from. So I am getting just as much out of it as my kids.
Yeah.
Like when we do like the powwow dancing, my older girls absolutely love it. They think it's the coolest thing. Trey, not so much. He's not a powwow dancer, which, you know what? Fine. But
not everybody is.
He absolutely loves the drumming. That's where he would get sucked in at the powwow dancing just by the drummers. So we found a drum making kit online and we bought it. And we sat down as a family and we made drums. Anything that the kids have been interested in, we try everything in our power to teach the kids, learn with the kids. We actually have an Indigenous worker in our agency that comes in and visits our kids once a month and does things with them, whether it's baking, cooking, games, teachings, whatever. But she is the Indigenous worker. So if we can't answer the questions for our children, she does.
You have a good resource.
Yeah. And
that's
our kids know that, you know what, ask your questions. If I can't answer it, I'll try and find it for you, because then I'm learning. And if I can't find it, we'll go talk to our Indigenous worker and get her to come in and she can talk to you.
Yeah. And that's where I was really hoping and really so glad that you do this, because there was that entire couple generations of children, the 60s scoop, the residential schools, all of these terrible, terrible situations where it was suddenly the white savior kind of coming in and grabbing all the kids and getting rid of the Indian in them, for lack of a better phrase.
No, we take pride in the fact that our children are Indigenous. We love learning about their culture. We love learning about everything that they want to learn about. They have questions, we figure it out. Like I said, we had a friggin' 16-foot teepee put up in our backyard. If that ain't supporting our kids' culture, I don't know what is.
Yeah, there's that.
So, and I mean, we do, like I said, the powwows, the powwow dancing, the music, the cooking, the baking. It's just, there's so much in the Indigenous culture that I think, honestly, we're going to be learning, and our children are going to be learning till the day we're no longer here.
Oh yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
But I'll tell you right now, it's one of the most interesting cultures you will ever learn about is the Indigenous
culture. It's fascinating.
Culture.
Yeah, it is fascinating. Sorry, Scott, what?
Side note, we don't ram it down their throats.
No.
When they're in our house, they want to learn their culture, we support it. But at the same time, we're not going to force them to do it either. We're forced to learn about it because we are part of an agency, and the agency makes it a priority.
Right.
But we don't make our kids do it if they don't want to. I want it to be their choice, because if we're forcing them to do it,
they're going to hate it.
They're going to hate it.
Absolutely.
Think about it. The kids that live on the reserve, nobody forces them to do it.
Nope.
Half of them don't know half of what our kids know about their own culture, and they live there.
Yeah.
So we want our kids to embrace it, but we want them to do it willingly. If they're not going to do it willingly, we're not going to make them do it.
That's fair. I think that's very fair.
Eventually, they will be willing.
Well, as parents, you have instilled a curiosity in your children. And that, I think, is the key. Whether it's a curiosity in mechanics, whether it's a curiosity in bookkeeping, whether it's a curiosity in their culture or in your culture, right? Like, they could suddenly decide that suddenly they want to go to Korea and they want to learn everything about Korea and, whatever.
So, I have a 15-year-old that is infatuated with Japan, and her goal in life is to go to Japan. So it's they're not just learning about their culture, they're learning about all cultures.
Exactly.
But they're learning about their culture and who they are and where they came from is our utmost priority.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I can honestly say I think y'all are good parents. It's good to chat with you.
And there's some days we don't feel like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, right there. Yeah, I get that one all the time. But anyways, thank you so much for joining me. Tina, we'll definitely have to get in touch and talk about some other stuff we can chat about, because people are so multifaceted. I have different people who I'm like, okay, I need to talk to you about this and this and this and this, and Scott, I never want to see you again. I'm kidding.
I'm boring.
Well, yeah.
He is.
Well, but your parents also have adopted at a very late time in life. So, I mean, that's...
Don't get me started on
that. Okay.
The only thing I'm going to say about it is not that they don't have the love to give. but they don't have the energy
Yes.
or
Yes.
the resolve to raise younger kids the same way they went about it with my brother and my sister.
And you.
Yes.
I was the
Yeah.
oldest, and so I had to suffer the worst of everything and paved the way for them. But it was fine. I got through it, and I think it made me a better person in most ways. But I go back now, and a main topic of conversation between my biological siblings is what happened to mom and dad, because they're not raising these kids anywhere near the same way.
They're raising them as
Nope.
grandpa. That's
Yeah,
the
they're
difference.
raising them like
And
grandma.
that's what I was just thinking. They didn't adopt a child, they adopted a grandchild.
Yes.
Yeah, pretty much. Like
Yeah.
I'm old enough to be this kid's dad.
Yes, you are. Yeah.
Yay.
We're old enough to be all of our kids' grandparents, for crying out loud.
Yeah. Like I mean, you, in some ways, you probably grew up a similar way that we did. Like, we had limited screen time. We didn't get to watch
Oh, yeah.
TV all day. We didn't get to play our video games all day long. I mean, shoot, when video games were in their infancy, that's when we were growing up.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
there weren't video games for the previous generation. There were for
That's
us.
right.
And now these kids, every one of them has a phone and they're glued to it. Like, that's their life is on the screen.
Yep.
Drives me crazy.
Yep.
Same thing with high
But
school.
they will get over it. Yeah. We can talk about kids and screen time until the cows come home. But you know, and people say that kids are so disengaged with the world around them because of their screens. I was disengaged with the world around me because of books. Had nothing to do with screens. Right?
That was
It just
Tori
was a
too,
different form of rectangle.
Yeah, that was Tori too, and it still is Tori.
So,
Same thing. She'll
exactly.
disengage because of a book.
Yeah.
Yep. And both of my girls have tons of friends from all over the world because of being online. So there's a real detriment to it when that is nothing but your world, but there can be a real blessing to it as well.
Yep.
And again, that's a story for a different day. But anyway, thank you so much for taking time this evening to talk to me. I really enjoyed this. It was great to get to know what y'all are doing. And I hope you're able to do this for a good long time because it sounds like you're doing very, very well at it.
I think this is something that we'll probably do until we can physically no longer do it.
Yeah.
When we
Yeah.
retire, we're probably going to die.
Yep.
All righty. Have a great night.
You
All
too,
right.
Kim.
Thank you.
All righty. Talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.